Well, hello. Welcome back to another exciting edition of Coffee with Stephen. So this week's blog is entitled, When is a Gun a Gun? And there is somewhat of a story behind this. I had gone back to Wisconsin last week to meet with USCCA, actually more specifically, to film some videos and a podcast for USCCA. They had wanted me to come back for that. And I was on the plane traveling back to Orange County when I heard a couple of other passengers behind me talking about a Jean Le Carre book. Now, I'm a huge fan of Jean Le Carre. In fact, my favorite book of his is Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. But they were actually talking about another book that I had read several years ago called The Night Manager. Now, I remembered as they were discussing this book, this conversation, well, it's not really a conversation, it's an internal dialogue that an attorney is having with himself at the very beginning of the book. This attorney is about to be executed. He evidently failed to properly vet his clients. He was representing some incredibly nefarious individuals. They were clearly displeased with his representation, and they've now taken him out to the North African desert where they are about to execute him. And he's looking at all of the firearms that are pointed at him. And in this existential crisis moment, he starts having this internal dialogue where he starts questioning whether or not the things pointed at him are in fact guns and what makes it a gun. He starts also questioning whether or not he even exists to begin with. Now, ultimately, this little internal dialogue is cut short when he's gunned down. But that interesting little sort of, dialogue, I guess, that he's having with himself got me thinking about our own gun laws and how schizophrenic they really are. After all, if we look at the federal guidelines, a 18th century pistol, a flintlock or a caplock, falls outside the scope of being considered a firearm. And yet, a starter pistol, a tool that it is impossible to expel a projectile, is considered a firearm. When we go beyond the concept of firearms and we start looking at arms per se, a tool like a stun gun is considered, pursuant to the Supreme Court, an arm and protected by the Second Amendment. And yet, brass knuckles, while clearly an arm, clearly a weapon, falls outside the scope of constitutional protection. There's a vagary that's attached to this entire sort of line of study. And to a large degree, it's a direct result of a lot of these laws being generated based on emotions rather than logic. And the inevitable result is mass confusion. In any event, it got me thinking, and that's what ultimately generated the blog, and I hope you do enjoy it. Now, a couple of, secondary things that I am forced to tell you I'm going to be doing now for the next number of videos. The first one in August, and you can get it now on Amazon, is Steve Tarani and myself's brand new book, The Sword and Quill. It is available for pre-order if you go on to Amazon and simply type into the search bar Sword and Quill or my name, Stephen Lieberman, or Steve Tarani. It should come up, and you can pre-order it. The book is set to be delivered the first week of August. The other thing that you should be aware of in September, in fact, it's actually September 13th and 14th. It's a weekend, and it's a 2-day course. Steve Tarani, myself, and our lead instructor, JJ, will be doing a 2-day preventative measures workshop in Costa Mesa. It's really going to be chock full of really good information, both practical as well as legal. It is open for you, and we highly encourage you guys to sign up and participate in that. If you'd like to sign up, you can either go to the Artemis website at adi.artemis.org artemishq.com, and you'll see the events page. You can click on that. You can register right there. Or alternatively, you can always call into Artemis at 949-305-6586. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, train constantly, train consistently, train repetitively, and train with purpose. Above all else, stay safe.